What's up, Pod Pals? It is your buddy Adam, and you're checking out Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. This is a very special podcast audit session. I've got my friend, my pod pal, Tim Douglas from the Inspired Way podcast in the house. We're going to dive in and dish out some of my best podcasting tips for podcast growth, podcast monetization, podcast audience engagement. So if you're looking for tips along those lines, you're in the right place. Pod Pals. Tim, welcome to the show, man.
Man, thank you so much, Adam. This has been something I've been looking forward to, honestly, for about two and a half months when I went to schedule this thing. So,
yeah, well, that's a nice little call to action for the audience too. Like, if you guys want to do one of these, hop on the calendar because there's a bit of a wait list.
100%.
So I appreciate you hanging in there with that, Tim, and being willing to, hopefully it's worth the wait. Now I feel like I have to over deliver. So.
Step it up. Let's go.
Dang it. So you've been jamming out with your show for a while now, and you got some great content coming out. I want you to paint the picture for us the next 6 months. You and I unite. We have a conversation like this. Everything's gone really well. Paint that picture for me. What would that look like if the next 6 months of your show, you just start to crush it?
It's definitely more of a business at that point than just a hobby. And I love, I know it's just a tagline, but really it's a mindset, of treating it, having fun with it as a hobby, but then using it as a business. And that's really my ultimate desire and goal. But on top of that it's also providing amazing and incredible impact. And I feel like I'm at the precipice of some of that right now. And so I'm excited for the next 6 months to see where, as we enter into 2023 or whenever this gets released, how things really are, because I do believe that the impact will be there. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, that's the interesting thing about podcasts is like, there's an initial like gathering of energy, gathering of momentum, and all of a sudden you start to see impact happen. And usually income follows impact, and the more impact, the more income opportunities there are. And I know you've got some really cool monetization options that you've been thinking about dabbling with, and we definitely want to dive into those. But what would you say is the biggest obstacle in the road right now that's keeping you from getting where you want to be over the next 6 months?
Wow. I think it's shifting, it's changing, really, but it's been, honestly, that imposter syndrome. Like, even though you have a podcast, even though you're starting to make impact, still like, okay, now put in an offer out there for them to take advantage of. Oh, now they're monetized, they're paying their hard-earned money to see change, to see impact in their life. And so I think that has held me back, and I'm starting to really break free of that. And so I'm excited again for that next 6 months because there's more clarity moving forward.
Yeah. So first things first, I want to tell you that this isn't an abnormal feeling at all. I feel like I need to do an episode of like the different levels of imposter syndrome, because there are different stages of it. Even like at first we're like, is this a dumb idea for a show? Will anybody even listen? And then we overcome that. We put a show out there, and then it's like, why am I even bothering reaching out to this level of guests? They don't want to come on and talk to somebody like me. But we ask them, and maybe they say yes. And we go, oh, wow, like that proven to myself. But now you're at a stage where you're like, well, yeah, people are following me, but are their hard-earned dollars really going to be transitioned into my pocket? And can I deliver on that? Like, is what I'm going to put out there going to be of value, real value to them? Now, to me, this is a sign that you're doing it right, because you are concerned with this. The average person that's just wanting to spiel the deal and put offers out there, they don't care. They're like, let's just try a bunch of crap and see what happens, and hopefully I make a bunch of money. So the fact that you are thinking about the value to be delivered, and is that good enough? It's bad and it's good, because we want to get over the imposter syndrome. But the fact that you are considering the outcome and the deliverables and the impact that you want to make, I think that's actually a good sign. Is that making sense so far?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
So I think,
Shows you care, I guess,
yeah,
really about your
exactly.
audience.
Yes, you give a damn, and that's
Yeah.
important. So I think we kind of want to look at it from that lens and harness that and go, okay, if I do create a thing, I'm going to give myself permission to experiment, but I'm always going to shoot for a whatever X return on investment. So for me,
Mhm.
it's like whatever they pay, I want them to get at least a 10X return on an investment. So if they give me $1,000, I want them to have the potential to earn $10,000 or get a
Yes.
$10,000 value. So that helped me get over my offer imposter syndrome a lot when I was like, hey, I know, and you have your first few people go through your offer or whatever, and you start to see actual results happen. You're like, okay, I know what's being produced, so I feel very comfortable charging what I charge, and that's when you start to actually scale up. That's the next level of the imposter syndrome we have to get over is
Yeah.
charging. We don't charge enough, and
Yeah.
and like getting into charging what we're actually worth, and those are the waters that I'm kind of swimming in now. So it's really interesting. Like, man, I'm doing some stuff, and people are making a bunch of money. They're making a bunch of impact. I can charge more. And I'm like, all right, I'm okay with that. But it's still scary because what if,
Absolutely.
what if nobody pays it? What if I have to go back and retreat and
Mhm.
bring it, discount it down? So those thoughts come into my head as well. But I think we need to look at this as a positive thing. Like, okay, you're actually caring about the people that are spending their hard-earned money and investing in what you have to offer. But also we can use that energy and go, all right, I have to prove to myself and to them I'm way over delivering.
Yes.
And then down the line, once you have some real results, testimonials, all that stuff, that's when we kind of get over that pricing thing and charge what we're worth. Is that making sense so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think you were in this stage. It's kind of, you're transitioning out of phase 2 of my podcasting success timeline, going into phase 3. Like you're dipping your toes in the water of that business traction zone. Like
Mhm.
you've got good things going on with your content, with your show. I know your marketing's better because you've been sharing some stats and ideas, and you've kind of gotten off your butt a little bit. It seems like the last few months,
Yeah.
especially, where you're like, now I actually market my episode and I have some rhyme and reason and I have a game plan. I'm executing, not just trying. So I want to compliment you on that because I've seen it. Like I've seen it
Mhm.
in your content that you're putting out there. So we're not making those phase 2 mistakes, that post-launch frustration zone, those typical mistakes. We're moving past that, which is great. You're starting to invest in your business. You're starting to look at some different opportunities to grow your show. Now, when we think about business traction, we really have to think about what is the impact that we're trying to make, what's the unique way that we can create that impact, and then what's the unique like packaging and marketing system we can use to activate people, that to get the right people interested in that offer. So for me, well, when I look at your brand, you're in the inspiration category, and
Mhm.
interaction is always monetizable. So like you had mentioned in the notes that you sent me, like doing some potential live weekend experiences. I'm like,
Mhm.
hell yes. This sounds cool. Like go drag people out into the wilderness and have like an
Yeah.
experience. And that's high ticket, that's high value. That's a transformative experience.
Yes, 100%.
That's not inspirational. That is transformative.
And
Uh,
I've actually hosted 3 of them so far over the course of the last 3 years, like once a year, but I want to be more, more often,
yeah.
whether it's even just twice a year starting there or 3 times a year and, just kinda upping that game a little bit more.
Yeah. Like I think this is a potential high ticket offer where if you do it right, you could do a weekend immersion experience. The word
Mhm.
immersion is very effective. Like that, feel free to use that. Um, but that is something you could do 3 times a year, maybe 4, maybe it's a once a quarter thing for different
Mhm.
seasons and different climates or whatever. And then like that could be kind of it, man. Like that could be your big money makers. That's your 6 figures on the table right there. And we just reverse engineer and go, okay, if this is a 2K offer or a 5K offer or a 10K offer or whatever, and it's all inclusive, whatever that
Mhm.
you do, all the stuff, once they get there, the rest is taken care of. Then you take your cut off the top, what's that look like? I'm really big on simplified businesses. Like I'd love to see Tim Douglas, that, you know, the guy that's out there recording weekly content, doing some live casting and stuff, doing some connections, and then it all drives into these immersion experiences, and those just fill up. It reminds me of one of my friends in the fitness space, Jay Ferrugia. He has kind of a men's group immersion weekend that he'll have 10 or 12 people. I think he charges $1,500, but he was doing this when he was out in California. So it's like a destination. You'd have 10 or 12 guys fly out there. They do an immersion weekend, and then he would sell his mastermind as kind of like an accountability group on the back edge of that to stay connected, to stay. So that model works, especially when you spend 3 days live with people, or 2.5 days, or whatever it is. That connectedness, that breaks down a lot of the pricing barriers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that'll pull people in. They're like, all right, I'm emotionally invested, not only in Tim and his process, but also this group of individuals that I've gone through this together. So if there's an offer there that makes sense, that they could have some sort of membership, mastermind, accountability group, accountability pods, whatever, I feel that's the business model that I'm seeing as something that's ELF, easy, lucrative, fun. So how's all that hitting you so far?
No, really good. As a matter of fact, I wrote down before you even mentioned that, I wrote down inner circle plus inner circle. So experience, and then the inner circle.
Yeah.
You mentioned memberships. I'm actually developing right now a online membership on my website, which comes with an app, so listeners can come be a part of it. Either and then have 3 different tiers, and each tier will give them actually more value, where I'm coaching or teaching them how to go from X to Z. So
yeah. So I'm a big fan of always asking the question when we're creating an offer, what is the answer to the what happens next question? So they go through it, they complete the course, they complete the immersion experience, they complete the coaching package. How do we answer the what happens next? All right, well, there will be that percentage of people that are like, okay, I want to keep going. What do you got, Tim? And you got to be ready. I've been that guy that's not had something, and I'm like, well, you can keep listening to my podcast. Best of luck. And I'm like, oh, like I could have had. They were hungry for more, so let's create the thing to let them continue on. So I love that nice soft landing spot, that recurring revenue membership mastermind style, where there's a monthly or quarterly or yearly recurring fee. And that helps us as business people too, to know like, all right, this amount of my bills are probably going to get paid this month. I don't have to go out and chase new income. And that's something that as I built my business and I transitioned into full time, that was a very attractive and important part of my game plan. I'm like, I don't want to be scrambling to sell a certain amount of courses or bring in new business every single month. Like I want to know I've got this base locked in with a certain amount of churn that's understood, but like, that's so comforting. And that allowed me to transition into full time and be like, okay, like my base is there. We're good, that the bills are paid and the kids are fed.
Agreed.
And, my kids are getting big. So that's a lot of feed that we got to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like the way that is shaken out. How do you feel? Like what kind of price points are we talking about with your experiences that you've done so far?
The experiences that have been around, the last one I did was right at $795.
Okay.
It was, it's $800.
Okay. Cool.
And that was pretty much all inclusive.
Okay.
So stay, food, experience, all that. So.
And did you have people, was it mainly local people, or was it people from all over that came in?
All over the country. Yeah.
Nice. So when you do these, are you thinking about hosting it in different locations, or stay close to your home front there?
I have thought through this quite a bit. I've stayed local. All 3 have been here. And that is by design, because if I do, and I have thought about going, whether West Coast, or because I'm on the East Coast in South Carolina, and I have access to the mountains. So I always take them to the mountains, which is getting people out of their normal comfort zones, out of their normal experience or environment, which really helps us grow and kind of release a little bit
Yeah.
versus being in our own environment and things like that. So, however, I have thought about doing them, whether it's middle of the country or West Coast, and just doing maybe a couple different ones. The thing that I trip out on, or that trips me up maybe, is just logistics.
Yeah.
Because I go shopping the day before, buy all the food, get to the site, da 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 da. So just logistics, but I know that's just a little thing to work through. But
Well, you're in a destination zone. Like South Carolina is a place where people want to be. So that's awesome. Whereabouts in South Carolina?
I'm in the upstate, so I'm in the foothills of the Appalachians there.
Okay.
Blue Ridge.
Yeah, we had thought about moving to Greenville, like hardcore. Like we
I'm
were
just outside of Greenville. Yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at houses like
Yeah.
almost a year ago before we decided to move to St. Louis because of family.
Yeah.
But yeah, we go to Greenville quite a bit, so we'll get to connect in real life.
Hey, let's connect.
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
awesome. But anyway, that's a destination, that area.
Yeah.
So I think you're good. I don't think you need to go like, let's do it in California for the reasons that you described. It's like you have all the advantages of having all the local connections, the lay of the land.
Mhm.
You don't have to pay for your own housing and all that stuff. Like that's all that negates that extra expense of you having, to figure all that stuff out. You've got local connections, so you can have local people come in that that can, do catering or do, yoga out in the woods or whatever the hell you want to do. Like, like you've got all those connections. So if you were like, I'm in Indiana, I'd be like, let's look at South Carolina.
Yeah.
Great South Carolina. I've got friends out in Arizona that do this, Florida, same thing. Like those are destinations. I don't think you need to screw with different locations.
Yeah.
And there's so much cool stuff in that area. Like you said, there's a lot of different climates and you're just off the ocean. If you need to get out there, you're in the mountains if you need to get out there. So I think that's perfect. But I think that, what about as far as, is it intimidating to think that like I'm going to do 3 or 4 of these a year, or do you feel like that's doable for you at this point?
It's a little intimidating just in the fact that you have to pony it up, right? I mean, like you have to say, okay, I'm going to put the dollars down and be willing, like if it does. And I think that's just the willingness to fail really, but, and that there may be some monetary loss with it, right? Like if you had to shift the dates or something or postpone it, then you lose your, maybe a deposit, or you lose some, something of that nature. And I think that's what's kind of hung me up just a little bit. Whereas, it's having the liquid cash to throw at it up front and be committed. I at this stage where I'm at right now, I do believe that I could fill the spots. Like just with the momentum and the followership that I have and what I'm hearing, I do believe that I can feel that. So that gives me a little bit more peace and comfort. Whereas if I was kind of like, well, just for instance, the last couple of years, the downloads per episode were probably less than 100. Now within, I think I just read your email, within the first 30 days, they're over 125, for the most part.
Yeah.
So, which says you're in the top 50%. So
top 50%.
That feels pretty good. I know now that, oh, hey, it's growing. It's starting to have this momentum. And now it's like, now you have to take action upon it.
Yeah. So. Well, let's map this out a little bit, because I feel like this is something that I enjoy doing. I'm a planner, and I know you seem to enjoy structure as well. So what I would look at is a date out there in the future, and we can get kind of optimal with it. Like, obviously we got to be very careful with holiday season. We want to avoid, really epically bad travel weather season. We want to kind of avoid, but put something out there that's like 90 days plus, set a target zone, and then start working your local connections and make sure that there's not some major event happening that weekend that's going to take up all the hotel space or whatever. And
well, the good thing is we get a cabin up in the mountains, and so there's hey,
perfect.
They can fill them all up down here. We'll be up in the mountains.
Nice. Okay, so that's not an issue then. But then once we get dates pretty firm, map out your content, move backwards, and really start dialing it in, so that especially those last 8 weeks leading up to open cart promo period and through that period, it's like you are putting out the content that the exact person you're trying to attract to that event would love to hear. So just get them freaking fired up and just keep on serving up those types of episodes, those type of interviews, solo episodes, whatever. I think this would be a great time to start doing those coaching style episodes, kind of figuring out your version of the podcast audit and just getting as many reps of those types of episodes and then put that offer out in front of them. Even if you're not an open cart yet, I would still go, hey, I'm doing this event. I feel like we got a pretty good connection. Yeah. Save the date. But also, if you want to get a commitment in now, I'm going to hook you up and give you $100 off or whatever. Anybody that does a whatever you call it session, since you came on and came on the show and you created content with me, I'd love to hook you up with a discount. But this is, and what I tend to do with discounts is I create a promo code that's just their first name. That way it's easy for them to remember. And it also lets them know that I just sat down and created that special for them. It's not just some, off the cuff thing. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, use the code Tim. It's only good through this weekend because if you want to commit, then let's commit. Otherwise you can wait and fight it out with everybody else.
I like that.
And, and then as you start to fill the seats, you can be like, we've actually pre-sold half of them. So you can get in now. It's almost like you're giving them a discount and giving them the advantage of early access to guarantee that they will get a seat in the cabin, And so that I like that a lot. And I think you will convert people over, but the session has to be the right topic. And so you have to think like whatever topic we're going to cover, so a good example, if you and I were sitting down here today and I was like, oh, this is a podcast launch audit. Like that's the wrong topic for you and I to cover because you've already launched. And my main offers are in the business development space. So you have to think like, what is this experience going to serve? And then what is the appetizer to that you can do in a one-on-one coaching session like this? And the way that you name it, the way that you market it, I want all of that to be geared towards that person. Don't try to serve everybody with this. Only serve the type of person that will be an ideal candidate for the live experience. Is that making sense?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big mistake that people make with the coaching. They'll be like, it's an open Q&A, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. No.
And that's not going to serve them or you because you don't have enough time. Or if you end up spending freaking hour and a half with them or something, then they just got a free coaching session that you should have charged them $1,000 for. So,
right.
So I think you work backwards from that. And then you're like, all right, now I need to start booking these coaching style episodes and then just kind of get the kinks worked out of that, get your conversation flow down, and you'll start to see conversion happening off the back end of those. And if not, you still have super fans and people that are totally into your brand, and they'll probably 100%. Share out. Maybe the dates don't work out for them. Their in-laws are getting married or something like that, and they can't be there. But maybe the next one, I would track every single relationship, Tim. Like keep a file, keep your. I don't even know how to do automated CRM stuff. Like that's like I'm not smart enough. But so I just keep a Google Doc. So Tim, like we've interacted a few times. You've got a spot on my Google Doc, and I just keep track of your name, your email, and the last time that we talked. So I'll go up after today and I'll update it. Like, hey, we did a podcast audit, and it was on August 2nd, 2022. And next steps, value add, pain points discussed, whatever. So I'll make a note. Tim's thinking about doing a live immersion experience. That way, like let's say you just ghost me, and I'm like, man, I haven't talked to Tim in 6 months. But then I put out an episode about doing live experiences, marketing a live experience with your podcast. I can see that in your file. I can be like, wow, damn, it's been 6 months since I talked to Tim. I know the last time we talked, he was interested in this. This is a great reason for me to follow up and reignite our relationship. Tim, yo, bud, hope you've been doing well. It's been 6 months.
Yeah.
Hopefully you didn't get eaten by a mountain lion up in the mountains.
Right.
And I got this episode that just dropped today. Want to make sure that you saw it. I hope that you enjoy it and get some value out of it. Let me know what you think. So all of that,
love that.
It works, man. It's relationship building, and you're just a good old dude like I am. And it's like, all right, nobody's going to hate on you for following up and going, hey, I just released this episode. I think it's, and remembering what we talked about last time, no matter how long it was ago, and caring enough to send a genuine follow-up message.
Mm,
This isn't spammy. This isn't markety. This is called adding
mhm.
value and actually relationship building. So what I do is every Thursday, I just do scans through my list. I've got it to where I can do keyword searches and be like, monetization offers or download focus or whatever. And I'll just see who pops up, who I haven't talked to in a while, what kind of content I've put out recently, and is there a good reason for me to put that in front of any of those people? And I'll try to do 5 to 10 reach back outs
Mhm.
every single Thursday. And that's one of the ways that I kind of end my work week, is just kind of reigniting and rechecking in with people. And some people continue to go to ghost it up, and other people are like, oh man, I already listened to it. I'm still listening. But it's crazy because these people that you do these types of episodes with, sometimes it's a longer tail. Like I had somebody that signed up for my boot camp. We did a podcast audit over a year ago, and she got
Mm,
really into my brand. She listened all the time. And then once I put the boot camp offer out there, we did a quick consult. She's
yeah,
like, I think this is the thing. And I was like, yeah, I think this is a good fit. Boom, she's in and she's crushing it. So
nice.
it gets people into your world,
Right.
and it makes you very top of mind as an expert that they could potentially be interested in working with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I like this because I just had this was in a completely unrelated group. I just kind of, someone commented on something, I commented on it, they DM'd me based on the comment that I made. This was back in early December 2021. And next thing I know, literally 2 months ago, that person reaches out, says, "Hey, I've been listening to your podcast since December. Love it. Love to connect." I'm like, so you never know who's
Yep.
actually listening, but we've connected. I specifically remember the conversation we had, so this little tickler, so to speak, I can reach back out to him. It's been a few months, reach back out to him, see how he's going. As you were saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, I've got an episode that I'm going to record that would be perfect to send to him as well, and
Yep.
just kind of touch base with him and kind of keep him in the ecosystem, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we're running short on time, but last thought, once you do get people converting, and if you've got a longer tail promotional cycle and somebody signs up and it's like, well, this thing's going to happen in 90 days, obviously, like, give them, I'm sure you already have this, like some sort of prep checklist and like, here's how we need to
Hmm.
get prepared. But as you're doing that communication, I would offer up like a little VIP bonus prep
Yeah,
session
yeah.
that maybe it's one before and then one after. So there's like a prep and then an unpack.
Hmm.
So maybe it's a VIP and it costs $500 or whatever, and you're going to do a 45-minute prep session before the actual immersion event, and then you're going to have a 45-minute unpacking and
Hmm.
implementation session on the back edge of that. Because these people, once somebody gives you their money, the hardest dollar to earn is the first one. So once they've already
Right.
invested, and it's been a few weeks down the road, and you're like, hey, I've got this thing. If you want to upgrade, I'm going to put 5 of these out there. You're one of the first people to sign up. You get first dibs. If you want it, let me know.
Yeah.
And simple, and you'll have people that'll say yes, and they'll convert over. So that's something else to consider.
Yeah, I've actually considered something very similar to after the fact of what's next is the VIP part, or I'd call it the elite. And I don't know if I like that term, so to speak, but anyway, and that is having them go from this experience to, oh, hey, here's a follow up of 6 weeks. So we're not just going to drop things off like, hey, go on your way, and hopefully you implement these items that we talked about. Now here's 6 weeks, for an extra $500, whatever. We're going to meet every week and we're going to talk about like how you're actually implementing those things and help
Yep.
you implement them, because you've gone to events, I've gone to events, you come off this really high and you ride that for about a week and it's like, I wish I still had that, that interaction. So that's hence that 6 weeks gives them that interaction a little bit longer tail, so to speak,
Love
after
it.
an experience.
Yeah. The keywords for me are optimization beforehand, implementation after.
Yeah.
And I think those are attractive things. If somebody's going to invest their money, they're traveling out to you. I really do like the idea of some sort of bonus one-off
Hmm.
prep before, one-on-one with Tim, or even a small group thing like that. That could work too. But it's just like, we want to make the most. Here's what I need you to do mindset wise, prepping, so maybe
Hmm.
some activity, some journaling, whatever, like give them some homework to optimize their experience and come to play with that. And then on the back end, just like you said, It's all about implementation. Are you actually doing anything
Yeah.
with what you learn? And I'm going to hold you accountable.
That's good.
And that could, again, that could be a group thing too. Like that doesn't have to be one-on-one. So consider
Right.
that, because as this thing grows, there's going to be a whole bunch of demand for this, and you can make way more impact and way more income by doing a 10-person group coaching session on the back end and do little pods of 5 or 10, and your dollar per hour mark is going way up at that point. So
100%. No, I like that.
all things to consider. Dude, we dove deep on this. I like that.
Yeah.
We identified the target and we got after it. I like that a lot. So speaking of implementation, let's say I got to hold your feet to the fire, which I am. And I know where you live on Instagram, and now I know where you actually live, whereabouts.
Yeah.
I could get out to Greenville and probably ask around and figure it out.
There you go.
But what do you think next 24 hours action step wise? If I was to follow up with you in 24 hours, which I will do, just warning, like what's one thing you know me, what's one thing you can commit to do in the next 24 hours that's in line with what we discussed today? What's the first baby step that we can take in 24 hours here?
First baby step would be to just kind of set a date out there and kind of start playing with mapping that out. Like, what would that look like? So
Love it. That's perfect, dude. All right. Shout out your brand, shout out your website, shout out your show. Let people know where you hang out so that they can come find you.
Yeah. The Inspired Way podcast is the brand, the Inspired Way is the brand. The Inspired Way podcast is where I share all my info. Instagram is where I love to hang out most. I am on pretty much all the other socials, but if you really want to come play with me, I'm on Instagram or on the pod. So my website, you can look me up there as well. It's timdouglasinspires.com. And my handle on Instagram is timdouglasinspires.
Outstanding. Tim, you are truly one of my favorite new people, one of my new favorite pod pals that we've met. I'm glad we're hanging out. I'm glad we finally got to do this podcast Audit. I'll be excited to come visit you out there in South Carolina for sure. And for anybody out there listening in, like I said at the beginning, hop on the list, get on the calendar, come on the show, and I'll do my very best to serve you just like we've tried here with Tim today. Get signed up at podcastingbusiness.school. And with that, Pod Pals, I'll send you out into the podcasting wilderness, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.